Warning: the following program contains vivid descriptions of extreme violence, frequent strong language, sexual references, and period-typical racism and misogyny. Viewer discretion advised. What you are about to hear is an account of one of the most bizarre crimes in the annals of American history. The realm of Cuatro Taco was inherently complicated, because no one understood each other. No one was ever certain of anyone's motivation. The exception was Paul and Luca. Luca understood Paul, was fiercely loyal, unbothered by his nature, and Paul's bizarre ethical position allowed him to return the favor. But there was a disconnect in every other key dynamic this crew formed. No one else truly bonded. How fitting, then, was the desert for the setting of these crimes, for the desert inherently represents isolation, loneliness, hopelessness. Carter and Donnie might have bonded, had the latter not held a secret. The gunslinger was the oldest of three brothers. Young Donnie reminded Carter of the other Davidson boys, so after healing from the wound earned in his four-way duel, he took to teaching Donnie how to perform an old-fashioned quick draw. They set up about an hour's drive from town. Carter placed empty bottles on a boulder, and the men stood a fair distance away. "Key to a quick draw is not trying to be quick," he said. "Anyone can draw fast, but not anyone can draw fast and still hit a target." Donnie listened. For what it was worth, he truly knew nothing about performing a quick draw. However, to keep up his cover, he had to pretend he knew nothing about shooting a gun at all. This made for a rather tedious morning. Upon the duo's return to the cantina, Donnie covertly asked Wong to show Carter around. Rumor had it Paul was considering asking the man in black to join the crew. He would need to know the ins and outs of the place. Wong had no clue why Donnie couldn't give the tour himself, but he cared little for pushing the kid around, like Paul and Luca did, and agreed. The cantina itself was unremarkable. There was no need to be flashy in such a small town, where patrons had almost no choice but to eat your food. But what fascinated Carter was just how big the place was, once you knew which doors to open. Past the register, enter the door labeled Employees Only, and you would find not just the kitchen and the meat freezer, but a back room for conducting business, and a small corridor that led to living quarters. The crew shared a tiny bathroom, and each slept in a ratty twin bed. "Property's cheap around here," Carter guessed. "Very," Wong said. They re-entered the cantina's main room. Facing toward the front door, Carter realized for the first time they were not alone. A shriveled old man sat at the corner table. He stared as if into a void, appearing to chew his food more from habit than because he really wanted it. "So what's his deal?" Carter asked. Wong barely glanced at the old-timer. "Who, him? He's always here." "Always?" "Well, he usually leaves at closing time." "Usually?" "Yeah, but then he's back as soon as we open." "Know his name?" Wong was deadly serious when he said, "I wasn't even sure anyone but me could see him until now." During Carter's tour, Paul and Luca were in the kitchen. With all four men occupied, this provided Donnie a rare chance to have a moment to himself. He stood in the alleyway on the cantina's left, the only side of the building where there were no windows someone might pass. It was the heat of the day. He would have much preferred to meet somewhere shaded, but hardly a shaded area existed in this infernal town. A sedan cruised through the alley, stopped next to Donnie. Donnie glanced about. No one to be seen. He jumped into the sedan's back seat. The car started its routine lap around the town's perimeter. The driver was an agent, but Donnie never learned his name. The man in the passenger seat, tall with a red beard, was his handler, Alan Spear. It's the strangest thing, Donnie reported. I know what I saw, but by the time the big guy was asleep and I could go out to look, no body. No one and nothing around at all. What do you make of it? Spear asked. What reason would a chef have to hide a body for the cartel? Sometimes it's not about reason, kid. Sometimes it's just about... Spear paused, shook his head. Could he do it? Donnie had only joined the Cuatro Taco crew so that his long-term undercover position in the nameless town, a suspected hotspot for cartel activity, would be less obvious than if he had set up in the hotel for weeks on end. The Federal Bureau of Investigation knew nothing about Paul's past and could never in a million years have guessed the horrible future. As far as Donnie was concerned, the so-called gentle giant was just that. No, he said. He couldn't do it. Wouldn't have a reason even if he was capable. Agent Alan Spear would make many mistakes in the coming months, and each would contribute significantly to the longevity of the Cuatro Taco slayings. His first, and possibly biggest mistake, was trusting his protege. Donnie meant well, but the truth is, he was a poor agent, even for one on their first undercover mission. It is quite terrifying to know how intent the universe seemed on allowing the events of this narrative to unfold.